The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my Ford struggling to keep up. Living in Seattle, you get used to the gray, but tonight, even the city lights seemed dimmed by the oppressive downpour. Barnaby, a 46-year-old software engineer, was eager to get back to my cozy craftsman house and my wife, Isolde. We'd been married for 18 years, a long time by anyone's standards, and I genuinely believed we had something special. Or at least I had believed it until a few weeks ago. It started subtly. Isolde, a talented freelance graphic designer, began working longer hours. She always had a passion for her work, which I admired, but lately she seemed distant. Her phone was constantly buzzing with notifications, and she'd often step out of the room to take calls, her voice hushed and secretive. I'm not a naturally suspicious person, but the changes were undeniable, and a knot of unease began to form in my stomach. One evening, while Isolde was in the shower, her phone lit up with a message. Curiosity, or perhaps a premonition, got the better of me. I know it was wrong, but I picked it up. The message was from someone named Lysander, and it read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Thinking of you, my heart hammered in my chest." Lysander? Who the hell was Lysander? A wave of nausea washed over me as I scrolled through the messages. There were dozens, filled with flirtatious banter and veiled promises. It was clear they were having an affair. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My Isolde, the woman I loved and trusted, was betraying me. The shower turned off and I quickly replaced the phone, my hands trembling. I tried to act normal as Isolde emerged from the bathroom, her face flushed and radiant. "Everything okay, Barnaby?" she asked, her eyes meeting mine. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired," I said, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the messages replaying in my mind. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the air completely knocked out of me. How could she do this? What had I done wrong? Was I not good enough? The questions swirled around me, offering no answers, only a deepening sense of despair. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions at work, my mind consumed by thoughts of Isolde and Lysander. I couldn't bring myself to confront her directly. I needed proof, something concrete that would force her to admit the truth. I decided to play detective. I started subtly tracking Isolde's movements. I noticed she was going to the same coffee shop every afternoon, a place she'd never frequented before. One day I followed her. I parked across the street and watched as she met a man. It was Lysander. They embraced and I felt a searing pain in my chest. It was real. It was happening right in front of me. Lysander was younger than me, maybe in his early 30s, with a confident swagger and a charming smile. He was everything I wasn't, or at least everything I feared I wasn't. As I watched them laugh and talk, I felt a wave of anger rising within me, a rage I'd never experienced before. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator, a discreet woman named Bront, who provided me with photos and videos of Isolde and Lysander together. They were blatant, unashamed. They went to restaurants, movies, and even spent a weekend at a secluded cabin in the mountains. The evidence was irrefutable. The day I decided to confront Isolde, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was angry, hurt, and betrayed, but also strangely numb. I knew that once I confronted her, our marriage would be over. A part of me still hoped that it was all a mistake, that she would deny it and we could somehow salvage what we had. Isolde came home late that evening, her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkling. "Hey, honey," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "How was your day?" I took a deep breath. "Isolde, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. She looked at me, her smile faltering. "What's wrong?" I pulled out the envelope containing the photos and videos. I tossed it onto the table. "Take a look," I said, my voice flat. Isolde opened the envelope, her eyes widening as she saw the contents. Her face paled and she sank into a chair. "Barnaby, I don't even try to deny it," I said, my voice rising. "I know everything. I know about Lysander. I know about the coffee shop, the movies, the cabin. I know everything." Isolde started to cry. "I'm so sorry, Barnaby," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened. It just happened," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You spent weeks, months lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and you tell me it just happened. I know I messed up," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I still love you, Barnaby. I do love me. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have betrayed me in the worst possible way. Please, Barnaby, give me a chance, she begged. I'll do anything to make it right. I looked at her, my heart aching. A part of me wanted to believe her, to forgive her, but the betrayal was too deep. The trust was shattered, and I knew that we could never go back to what we had. It's over, Isolde, I said, my voice firm. I want a divorce. Isolde's face crumpled, and she started to wail. No, Barnaby, please don't do this. I'll change, I promise. I turned away, unable to bear the sight of her tears. It's too late, Isolde, I said. It's too late. The next few months were a living hell. The divorce was messy and acrimonious. Isolde fought me every step of the way, trying to get as much as she could. I was emotionally drained and financially depleted, but I was determined to get out of the marriage with my dignity intact. During the divorce proceedings, I discovered something even more devastating. Isolde had been secretly transferring money from our joint account to a separate account in her name. She had been planning to leave me for Lysander, and she wanted to make sure she was financially secure. This betrayal cut me deeper than the affair. It showed me the true extent of Isolde's deceit and selfishness. I felt like I didn't even know the woman I had been married to for 18 years. I presented the evidence of Isolde's financial misconduct to my lawyer, a sharp and compassionate woman named Genevieve. She was appalled by Isolde's actions and assured me that we would get justice. In the end, we won. Isolde was forced to return the stolen money, and she received a significantly smaller settlement than she had hoped for. I was relieved, but the victory felt hollow. I had lost my wife, my home, and a significant portion of my savings. But more than that, I had lost my faith in love and trust. After the divorce was finalized, I decided to make a fresh start. I sold the house in Seattle and moved to a small town in Oregon, nestled in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. I bought a cozy cabin and spent my days hiking, fishing, and reading. I needed time to heal and to rediscover myself. One day, while I was browsing through a local bookstore, I ran into Bront, the private investigator I had hired. She recognized me immediately. "Barnaby, right?" she said, smiling. "Yes, that's me," I said, surprised. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I'm getting there," I said. "It's been a long road." "I heard about what happened with Isolde," she said. "I'm so sorry." "Thanks," I said. "It is what it is, actually," Bront said. "There's something I think you should know." She paused, and I felt a sense of unease. "What is it?" I asked. "After your case, I kept tabs on Isolde and Lysander," she said. "Their relationship didn't last long. A few months after your divorce, Lysander left her for another woman. Apparently, he's a serial cheater." I felt a flicker of satisfaction, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of sadness. Isolde had thrown away our marriage for a man who didn't even care about her. "But that's not all," Bront continued. "A few weeks ago, Isolde contacted me. She wanted to hire me to investigate Lysander's new girlfriend. She suspected he was cheating on her. I couldn't help but laugh. The irony was almost too much to bear. "So, she became the victim of the very thing she did to me," I said. "Exactly," Bront said. "Karma, I guess." I thanked Bront for the information and left the bookstore, feeling a strange sense of closure. Isolde had gotten what she deserved. She had lost everything, and she was now experiencing the same pain she had inflicted on me. I don't know what the future holds for me. I may never trust another woman again, but I'm determined to move on with my life. I'm focusing on my hobbies, my friends, and my own well-being. I'm learning to be happy on my own, and I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned, however painful they may have been. As I drove back to my cabin, the sun began to peek through the clouds, casting a golden glow over the mountains. It was a beautiful sight, and for the first time in a long time I felt a sense of hope. The rain had stopped and a new day was dawning. Time passed. I started painting again. It was something I had abandoned years ago, but the solitude of my cabin and the beauty of the Oregon landscape inspired me. I even started selling my paintings at a local art gallery. I made new friends, people who appreciated me for who I was, not for who I was married to. One afternoon, as I was setting up my paintings at the gallery, a woman approached me. She was tall and elegant, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Your paintings are beautiful," she said. "I'm Alara, thank you," I said. "I'm Barnaby." We talked for a long time that day, about art, about life, about everything and nothing. I found myself drawn to Alara's intelligence and her gentle spirit. She was a breath of fresh air after the storm that had ravaged my life. Over the next few months, Alara and I became close. We went on hikes, had picnics by the river, and spent evenings talking by the fire. I found myself falling in love again, something I never thought possible. I was hesitant to tell Alara about my past. I was afraid that my baggage would scare her away, but she was understanding and supportive. She listened patiently as I told her about Isolde and the affair. She didn't judge me or pity me. She simply held my hand and told me that I deserved to be happy. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch of my cabin watching the sunset, I turned to Alara and said, "I love you, Alara." She smiled and took my hand. "I love you too, Barnaby," she said. I knew then that I had found my second chance. I had survived the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the pain, and I had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. Isolde's actions had scarred me, but they had also taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and forgiveness. I married Alara a year later in a small ceremony surrounded by our friends and family. It was the happiest day of my life. I had found a woman who loved me for who I was, who trusted me implicitly, and who would never betray me. Isolde's betrayal had been a defining moment in my life, but it didn't define me. I had chosen to move on, to heal, and to find love again. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all. Years later, I received a letter from Isolde. She was living in a small apartment in Seattle, working as a waitress. She was alone and unhappy, and she regretted her actions every day. She apologized for the pain she had caused me and wished me well. I didn't respond to the letter. I had forgiven Isolde, but I didn't want to reopen old wounds. I was happy with my life, and I didn't want to dwell on the past. I learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and living a happy, fulfilling life. It's showing the person who hurt you that they didn't break you, that you're stronger than they thought, and that you're capable of finding happiness again. In the end, that's all that really matters. I'm Barnaby, and this is my story. I hope it serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. Never give up on yourself, and never stop believing in the power of love. Because in the end, love is the only thing that can truly heal a broken heart.